really surprised me, because what I would have expected to see looking forward into the future, I would have expected to see everybody pulling together and community and everybody helping each other out, or, I mean, I would have expected to see that. And that is not what I saw. What I saw was empty houses. Hey, this is Ann Tucker. I am here with Trey Downs on Your Superior Self.
Coming in hot. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Sure. So the angel whisperer, huh? Is that what?
Yes.
Mhm.
Cool that you choose that word whisper, because that is what they do. They whisper. Yeah.
Mm. Has it always been like that for you? Like I feel like I think things
They,
have changed for you.
oh gosh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and when I say whisper, like that's how they talk to everyone. Like they're not allowed to come in and just like interrupt us and like, gong over our head, like wake up. It's more like a whisper. So, but yeah, with me, it's like we do have a full on conversation, and it was not always that way. It was, I didn't start channeling them. It was really in the last decade and really in the last like 5 to 6 years that I started trans channeling. Probably 6 years ago, I think I started trans channeling. Yeah.
What was your what was your background before? Like anything in the esoteric world at all?
Oh, how funny. I was totally corporate up until like a decade ago. I had actually a very successful career as a leadership coach. I worked with the executives from some of the biggest companies in the world. And it was a proactive choice to leave that and to just literally start over from scratch, doing something that everyone said you couldn't make a living doing. And so, yeah, so
What
it
was that
was.
process like? I assume there was some resistance, right, from friends and family.
Oh gosh, I mean, it was, I would say it definitely put a bit of a rift in my marriage at the time. I mean, like, at times it would be a thing that came up for sure. And with family and friends, it was a funny thing. Like my kids gradually, when they discovered that I could channel for them and tell them like stuff about romantic interests that they had, they were like sold. That became like a thing, like, Mom, what does this boy think of me? Or what does this girl think of me? And when they discovered that was useful, I was thrilled for the doorway, right? I was like, okay, sure, yeah, I'll channel on that, because it opened the conversation.
So you can
So
do that. You can channel like someone's you can well, I heard a story that you can actually like psychically connect with someone in their body. Was
yeah.
that what you were doing with those boys, like for your daughters?
And what I would do with them is I just feel into their state of emotion. So, because I'm very careful about respecting people's privacy. I
Sure.
don't like to just go inside and be like, what are you wearing today? Let's go and jump in your body. I don't do that, because that to me feels, I'm not comfortable unless I have permission. So, but it's very easy. The way where I draw the line is I say, what would I encounter of this person if I met them in person? How would I perceive them with my natural? So I will look into what their emotional state is at the, and that's very easy to perceive. Like if you're starting to channel, one of the first things that you can tune into very easily is emotional qualities about a person. And it's almost like that's just right on the surface. So that's something like if they talk to someone and they're walking away from a particular meeting, I can go to that moment and feel into that person's emotional state. So when they start asking questions like that get too specific about what is that person's motivations and what is that person, when it gets to a point where I feel like I would need to have that person's permission, then I don't look. Because to me, that's just kind of like I don't know. I mean, I know my guides have actually said that if you have a gift, you're meant to use it. That the concept of privacy doesn't make a lot of sense when we're trying to get to unity and oneness, that the goal is for us to deeply understand each other. But I feel like we're not quite there yet. Not everybody has bought into that concept yet, so I'm still a little careful.
Well, it's the human
But
condition, right? The feeling of loneliness and separation, right?
yeah, oh, 100%.
Duality. So this
Yeah,
idea that we're evolving into this like one point of consciousness awareness, like what they call the omega point
yeah.
of awareness, like essentially I mean, we're going to be connecting with everyone, really, right?
Yeah, 100, and that is interesting because that has been one of the biggest things that we have. I have a monthly program I call Peace Bathing, where it's a healing program, just helping people keep pace with this incredible shifting that's going on. It's a healing program, but it just kind of, it's a once a month to just kind of, okay, re-up, re-up, re-up. Every month we're growing. And one of the things they did in one of those sessions was they bring everybody up to this healing space. It's almost like a void or a space where the angels can have access to us. And once we reached that space, it's like they had everybody sort of get spiritually naked. It was like that idea of let down all of your defenses and get to the space. And we were in a space of protection, right? Where everybody was sort of enclosed and protected. And there was nothing like the angels had us, but everybody had to kind of take off all of their disguises, all of their defenses, lay them all down, and then move into the center and be seen. And it was about trust. It was about learning to trust each other. And I think it is such a fascinating thing that I think we all talk about unity and oneness, but don't look at me. You know what I mean? Don't see behind my veil. Like I got my secrets. And it is what are the things that we are afraid that people will judge us for? What are the things that we don't like about ourselves that we would rather not share? And that's the place where we have to learn to trust one another and just let it all hang out. And that is definitely part of unity. I get a lot of pushback on that around the concept of boundaries, because boundaries are like, that's a super like, and that's become like such a thing, and understanding like narcissism and codependence, and like so many people have issues around maintaining healthy boundaries. So but how do we get from that to unity and oneness?
Hmm.
And that's a whole conversation in my perspective. To me, it's almost like there's three states that we have to go through. We have to go from like this concept of not having boundaries, of being in that codependent or narcissistic state where we encroach on other people in unwelcome ways, to a state where we respect ourselves and we know our own sovereignty, which would be the state of having boundaries, to the next state, which is once we have sovereignty, we can then get to unity and oneness. But it takes trust, and trust in ourselves that we're going to be able to maintain our sovereignty within unity.
Hmm. What does that do for us, right? As a collective, when we're able to come together like that and unite our consciousness or our awareness together, like what does that do for the whole and what does it do for the individual?
I think that is like that is the question of the hour. Like, how are we going to be? How are we going to change? I think one of the interesting things the angels have said is that there is no part of our existence that's by accident. There's nothing that we have experienced that's throwawayable. So we have been in the state of what we would consider to be, like over expression of our masculine energy, not meaning by gender, but by the divine feminine, divine masculine within each of us. And it's been a state of separation, and we think, oh, that's terrible, we want unity. But from the angel's perspective, no, separation has been instructive. We've learned, like there's a reason why we have a beginning. Like the astrological chart starts with Aries. It's the beginning, it's oneness. Who are we? And we've been in this state of total separation to understand our sovereignty, to understand who we are. And so the goal, moving into unity, into the next state of consciousness of coming together, is not to lose that, is not to forget, is not to become the one big blob, not to become the Borg. Like that's not what's wanted for us. What's wanted for us is to enter into the concept of connectivity with all things while knowing our unique perspective, maintaining our unique spark of the divine and holding that unique perspective. So so I think that's the idea, is we need to be consciously entering into the state of oneness and knowing who
Hmm.
we are.
How was the reception of that message when you were in the boardroom and those executive leadership positions saying, we need to come together, guys, more synergy, come together? Like, could you go back to those environments and talk about these subjects to them and be comfortable in that, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like there's two different worlds there. Like,
Oh,
especially for
hugely.
people that evolve that are in these executive leadership roles that start seeing their own truth and speaking their own truths. And then it's like they have two separate selves. They have the work self, the professional life, and then they have the spiritual self. Like, how do you combine those?
I find it to be, and I think there has been massive shifting just in the last decade. So I will tell you, a decade ago, or just before that, maybe, 12, 15 years ago, I was working with a client who, and it was a mid-size company. I was working with a CEO, and he was bringing into that company a form of, it was like spirituality light. It was like, it was sort of right on the edge. It was called big mind. It was this concept of getting to understand yourself by embodying all your different selves. You'd have your warrior self and your child self and your all these different selves, and it was letting them each speak through you. So it was definitely a spiritual concept, but it was done in a way that was kind of fit with, it was a very non-threatening form of spirituality. And he got fired for it, literally got fired for it. As a matter of fact, I was on a plane to India to go, they had been through like, I was on a plane to India to go meet with the local office for that company. And on the way there, we get the message he'd been fired, and we were the ones that had to break the news. So it was like,
Oh,
yeah.
you're not giving
So
me a whole lot of confidence here.
yeah, I know, right? I know. But here's what's so interesting. That was like 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And I think things have shifted, things have changed. Like nowadays, everybody uses the word energy. Oh, that
Hmm.
person, I don't like their energy, or oh, the energy in here. Like everybody, and same thing, meditation. Everybody talks about meditation is no longer weird at all. Like everybody says you should do meditation.
Yeah, some
Um,
corporate, some of the corporations have like meditation rooms.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, like, so when I left my work, I felt at the time that it was a one-way ticket. I felt that there's no way I could come back into these organizations. And the companies I was working for were very, very, very left-brained. They were tech and med tech companies where there was very, very few women. I was like the only woman for miles. As a matter of fact, everywhere I went, I had the whole bathroom to myself. It was like my personal suite. But it was, so I think in those companies, it would be harder because there just really was, there was so much emphasis on brain and not heart. And the spiritual path is all about, we have to get in our heart. We have to learn to navigate from the heart space. And it is absolutely counter to the way most companies are led. And so I think from that perspective, it would be, in those companies still a challenge. But I went to a meeting the other day with my financial advisor, and it was a new person I was meeting with, and he asked, of course, what do you do? And I'm in a room where there's several of them. We're all together. What do you do? And I channel angels. And without even I'm to the point now where I will just say it to anyone. And that was not always the case. There was a long time that I was like, I'm a consultant, or even I'm a healer, you know what I mean? But to say I channel angels to me is like, I am out there. And what's amazing is at the time, it was kind of like, what is that? Like, what do you mean? But I have a friend who works in that office. This is how I found this group. And that friend told me that the next day he went into two of the people's offices and they were watching my videos.
No
So I
way.
thought, all right, so that is pretty cool, you know?
Well, I got a question for you. So,
Yeah.
what do you define as an angel, right? Like there's been many traditions that have painted
Yeah.
this portrait of an angel. The Bible has descriptions of angels. I just had Diana Pasulka on the show who wrote Encounters, who believe that angels aren't the way the angels are described in the Bible aren't necessarily how they portray themselves in reality to us. So I'm just curious to what your definition is of an angel.
Yeah, yeah. So my experience of the angels, the very first time I channeled them, they gave me a name, which was Uriel, and which is an and I did not know that, like that isn't like an archangel that's talked about. I didn't have any kind of religious upbringing. So all of this stuff I'm like Googling, like, what is that? But after that, they said they didn't want me to use names because they want us to get comfortable with the concept of a unified consciousness. And so the way they describe themselves to me is as an essence. The angelic essence is everywhere. It's all around us, it's inside of us, it's everywhere. And that essence within that essence is all of these different, what we would consider personalities or collections of strengths, what we think of as like, Archangel Gabriel or Archangel Michael, like those exist within the essence. And so that's how, like, why is it that all of us can call on, Archangel Michael at the same time and he'll appear for all of us? Like, how does that happen? Because in that essence, that concept, it's almost like within our body, every cell has all of the information. So out of the essence, you can form, zoop, here comes Archangel Gabriel, and then back out into the essence. And so it can coalesce into a particular aspect of itself, which we know of as specific angels. But they are beings in that way. They just are beings that have evolved to a point that they are then also a collective. And so
Has
there is such a being as Archangel Gabriel, but Archangel Gabriel, the concept of Archangel Gabriel is also known within the entire essence.
so have they ever told you like the origin story of like Archangel Gabriel and Michael? Like how did they evolve? Like what is the beginning of their evolution?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I haven't asked that specific question. They describe themselves, so this may help a little bit because they have shown me our origin story. They've shown me, they brought me back to the point where we started. And maybe they talked about that. I'd have to go back and look, but they say that they are different from us and that they are the spark of the divine, or they are the light of the divine, and we are the spark of the divine.
What's the
So
difference?
the difference is the light, light shines, light's eternal. It doesn't change. It's unchanging. Light starts and never stops. Whereas spark has a start, has a beginning. And the spark creates that basically we have the ability to manifest and create our reality. And that doesn't mean that angels don't have the ability to create. So in other words, an angel could manifest in your life. And you've heard stories about like things appearing out of nowhere that were created by an angel, and that can happen. They can create things, but our reality is a reflection of us in the same way that it's true for source. And angels aren't like that. Angels are they are like the awareness of the divine. And
Hmm.
so we have this ability to live in a world that reflects who we are on the inside, whereas angels move through our world that we create, and they can then add to that or change it or do things, but their world is not a reflection of who they are.
So if we have a beginning, do we have an end?
I don't believe so. There is not an end. Like, is it possible for a soul to be stopped in its existence? I believe that is possible, but very, very rare.
Mhm.
Very, 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 very rare. But the angels have never spoken to me about that. I'm just repeating what I have heard from someone else. So I
Okay.
shouldn't say that because that's not from first person knowledge. So the angels have never spoken on that. They basically have always said we're eternal.
Okay. So going to our origin story, like what do they tell you about that? Like us as a species or us as like sparks of God?
Sparks of God. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's interesting because they show me when they talk to me, they use words, and then I kind of get two tracks. I get the words that are coming out of my throat, and then I get a visual that goes with it. And so that was both for sure. And what I saw was there is like it's almost like we start like a question from source, which is who am I or what am I? And there's it'd be almost as if you said, what would I be if I like this particular aspect of your personality? Like who is this part of me? Oh, I see this part of me. Who is this? And then boom, that thought, you are born, you are a soul. And then once you come into awareness of self, then you start with one question about yourself. What would I be? Oh, my camera is just freaking out. Sorry about that. Let me
It's all
fix it.
good. It wanted to zoom in, be
I was like, this
very
is really important.
cinematic.
Oh, it was because I held my finger up. I have this new camera and it's still I'm still learning it. Yes, there you go. But uh but anyways, the so it starts with this idea, this one thought, and that one question, it's almost like you then divide yourself into experimenting with that one question. Like what if I was born into being a poor person or a rich person? I want to experience both sides of that equation. And then from that, then are born 5 other questions, and then 15 other questions, and then 20 other questions. Who would I be if I was in this context? What if I was in that context, but it was in the 1940s? Or what about that context in the 2000s? You see how it just, and then, so what it looked like to me was, imagine that you see this one little blip that comes up, and then it replicates, and then boom, it's the universe. And so that's how quickly it replicates out. So from that origin moment, so that question is, how can we be existing in all times, at all places at once? Is because that creation moment was, from our perspective, instantaneous, because it's the initial moment, and then there's the first question, and then boom, a million iterations of that same route of exploration, and we are everywhere.
It's like kids, right? You have that one question and there's a million others that come along with
Yes.
it, right?
Yeah, that's
Boom.
exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. So, but it was amazing to see it and to be able to conceptualize what that looks like. And that explains why is it that how is it that you can have lives that are all happening at the same time? Is because every one of those questions leads to another iteration of our soul.
Okay. Well, wow, that's interesting. You know what I've been reading recently, and it just naturally comes into my questions now that recent, more recent episodes of like experiences with like UFO phenomena, or like I've been reading a lot of Jacques Vallée, and he talks about um, like folklore stuff. Like, what is the difference between ancient civilizations and like the fairies, or um, those beings are that are like half goat, half man kind of thing, right? Like, and he thinks there is a relationship between those stories, as folklores, and our experiences of like ETs here. Like, it's not necessarily that it's a species from outer different planets. It's more or less like this consciousness that is trying to reach us or to evolve us. Have they ever spoken to you about ETs and like what their purpose is here? Like, what is it, the larger consciousness trying to influence us or evolve us to a certain state?
They have spoken about ETs a little bit, and then I also have had experience through the angels of elementals, as well as those types of beings that you're talking about. As a matter of fact, I had a past life regression where I was a minotaur. Is that what they called? Like half bull, half man. And I would not have believed it, except that it was such an intensely visceral experience.
Like, were you
Uh,
there,
yeah, like I
like
could feel
physically
it.
there?
Yeah, I could feel it. It was the weirdest. I could feel the thing that was so potent to me. So I saw the life. I did the regression, saw the life, understood what the life was about. It was about betrayal. Life was about betrayal. And in the life, I was a minotaur. I fought with an army. I was the only minotaur. I was fought with an army, but I had a group of like 5 men that were loyal to me. And we would go into battle, and I was huge. I was massive. I was like twice as big as everybody else. And I was like invincible. And I would just kind of plow with these giant horns and my arms. I could just plow through people. And then the 5 guys kind of got my back. They would stand, we'd be like in a circle, we'd move forward, and they would just be around me protecting my back. And that was what we did. But the challenge is that I had a really hard time regulating my emotions, and like rage was right there below the surface all the time. Like anger was right below the surface all the time. And so the leaders of that army didn't trust me, that basically as soon as I wasn't needed anymore, they decided to kill me. And I died very, very angry, feeling very betrayed that the 5 guys that I was friends with didn't tell me. But the truth is, I found it in the regression, is that there was nothing they could do. It's not like you can hide a minotaur. There was nowhere for me to go. You know what I mean? So it was about releasing that and forgiving that in the regression. But the interesting thing is, then later I did a meditation, and my guides brought me back into the body of the minotaur. So in the regression, I wasn't experiencing the minotaur. I mean, not I was in moments, but I was mostly seeing the life. I was seeing it, feeling it in moments. But in the meditation, I was in the body, and they were using it to give me an experience in this life of intense rage and anger, because I don't access that emotion easily in this life. I'm not an angry person. It's very hard to get a rise out of me in terms of getting angry. I don't get angry very easily. And they wanted me to feel that, to know it. And they brought me into the body, and they had me in the meditation. They had me on a beach. It's very, very real. And my guide is standing right in front of me, and I'm in the body of the minotaur. And it is everything I can do to not gore him, to not kill him. And I can feel the weight as I'm swinging my head. I can feel the horns moving, and I'm struggling inside of myself not to hurt him. And it was the weirdest feeling I have ever had. And I was really happy to end the meditation, but they were trying to teach me something. They were trying to show me this is what it feels like to understand others who lose themselves in that emotion. So yeah, I believe it. Like I felt it. I believe it was real, because it was so visceral. My whole body was in that experience.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Was that on this Earth, or was it some different Earth, like some
Yeah.
different Earth-like planet?
It certainly felt like Earth. It looked just like Earth. It never even occurred to me that it would have been somewhere else. Yeah. and
Wow.
everybody else was human. I was the only non-human being in the group.
Like
Yeah.
what age, like times, like what was it, Middle Ages? Was it like Roman times? Was it
It
like
would have been before the Middle Ages. People looked like, I mean, they had like they looked like humans. They were smaller than today's humans, actually, now that I think about it. They were shorter, smaller, but stockier, shorter and stockier than today's
Mhm.
humans. But they looked human. I mean, it might have been, I don't know, like to say exactly what era, I don't know exactly what time it was.
It's
But there
just so
wasn't a
interesting
lot
to
of
me.
people around.
Sure. I mean, what does that do, right? I know emotionally you're there to experience that in that meditation, the rage, right? But what does that do to your belief system here when you have that visceral experience?
Oh gosh, I have had to, when I first started down this path, like I was the most skeptical person. You know what I mean? Everything was like I had to have a personal experience of it in order to believe it. And so I thought, I thought crystals were rocks and you know what I mean? Like I was not prone to jumping in with both feet. I kind of needed to have a personal experience of things in order to really believe them and or to have my own opinion formed in something that I could point to and say, yeah, that's real for me. And so, but I have had so many experiences now that have just been like, yep, you thought that wasn't true, and here it is. I'll tell you one time out of the blue, and I did not even know it was happening. I was at a retreat, one of the retreats I lead, and at the end of the retreat, we usually do a Q&A. And so I never know what people are going to ask. And one of the people at the retreat asked, and she said it kind of jokingly. She said, "What do I need to do in order to reach my highest state of consciousness? Like, what advice can you give me to reach my highest state of consciousness?" And then she says jokingly, "I'm asking for a friend," like as if she had already reached it. You know what I mean? She was joking around, like, "I'm asking for someone else. I'm asking for a friend," is what she said. Well, the angels are extremely literal. They take things exactly as you say them. So, like very, very literal. And so before I know it, they say, "We're bringing in a friend," and then they bring in one of her guides. And they normally never let me channel anything but them. So this was extremely unusual. Like I'll channel Yeshua, I channel the angels. Very, very rarely will they and they will tell me, like if somebody's, recently passed family members right there in their field, they'll might relay a message, but that person never comes into my body, only the angels and Yeshua. So out of the blue, in comes this new energy, which they allow into my body. Totally surprising. It was an elf. And I would have never believed it, except there it was talking to us. And it was in my body. It was moving my body, which doesn't usually happen. And it was clear that it was a very, very, and it was, I mean, it was hilarious. It was really funny. And it was an amazing experience that everybody that was there talks about still, like it was this incredible experience. But yeah, elves are real. Who knew, who knew?
What was the message?
Oh my gosh. The elf was giving her very specific information about her path, asking her specifically. It's funny now, but he apparently he's one of her guides, that she was part of their family, that she had been part of their family, that so that she has this in her, in her history as a soul, that she had been with them. It sounds like probably more than once. And then they even told her that she at one point had been incarnated as a whale, which the elf thought was extremely funny. Um,
Well, if you've been
and
incarnated as an elf, I mean, a whale is nothing, right? Like
yeah,
that's
exactly, right, because it exists. So she
yeah.
apparently had a life as a whale. And then the elf was very concerned about her clutter in her house, was bugging her about that she needed to let go of things that had energy in her house. It was clear that the elf was one of her guides that was living with her in her existence, and was talking to her about things that were going on in her home that he was trying to get her to change.
Wow, so many questions right now
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Um, I just feel like, people hear that you channel an elf or becoming a minotaur and having that experience, and people just
Yeah.
kind of scoff at that, right? But if you think about it, if we live in a world of consciousness and we were able to connect, I mean, it's essentially like the way that I look at it is like this is just one dimension in this massive, massive, if you want to call it computer system or whatever that is
Yeah.
consciousness. And it's just accessing these different virtual realities to where you are the player and you're
Yeah.
experiencing this stuff. And you come here to log on to this game of Earth to be a human, to have an experience, right? So it can't be too far fetched that, all right, I'm going to experience another virtual reality where I'm a minotaur, where I'm experiencing this to experience that, and I'm going to have lessons, and I'm going to have uh, experiences where I feel rage and anger, and it's going to develop me as a soul being.
Yeah.
I guess I'm saying all of this to come back around to say, like, uh, we evolve in each virtual reality that we experience.
Yeah.
Where is that evolution going? Like, why experience the rage? Why come here and experience human life, this density, this contrast? Like, what are the all the virtual realities that we're playing? Like, what is the evolution of the soul going towards?
I think that it's such a timely question because I just channeled, just like my last Friday Live, the angels were talking about this new state of consciousness we're going into. And they've been talking about this like every week. I'm getting, every week they're telling us more about what we're going through and where we're headed. And it's been amazing to understand the journey that we're on right now. But what they said in the last message is that we will have like in the new state of reality, because I had a vision of a neighborhood near me, and in that vision I saw that there was some of the houses, like as I was looking, and it really surprised me because what I would have expected to see looking forward into the future, I would have expected to see everybody pulling together and community and everybody helping each other out, or I would have expected to see that, and that is not what I saw. What I saw was empty houses. And I could see this house has someone in it and that house has someone in it, but these other houses, they're just empty. And so the question immediately was like, oh my gosh, what happened to those people? Like there was nothing that looked, there was no destruction. There was nothing like that. It was just that's empty, that's empty, that's empty. And so this disturbing, right? Disturbing vision. So I channel and they talked about it in the last message. And they said it's not that they have disappeared, it's that they haven't stepped into the light,
Hmm.
and that in this new state of consciousness that we're going into, that the waves of light are coming, these flashes of light are coming, and they will affect everybody equally. And some people will be open to receive that light, and then they become, and that light is like a divine presence. It's an energy of divine presence, and when we receive it, we become the divine presence. So it's literally like we shift to a new way of being. But there will be people who are resistant to it. And the angels specifically say that the resistance comes in the form of the desire to keep things the way they were. So people who are really, really struggling with the sensation of loss, of really struggling with the idea of letting go of the old ways of being and doing. Same thing, like maybe they're super stressed out because they don't have their routine has changed, that the things they thought that they needed aren't available to them anymore, and they're really clinging to that, and that clinging is a form, it's almost like, imagine like a sponge that's totally been wrung to the point where it just can't absorb anything. They're so contracted, they're so tight in their resistance that the light can't get in, so they're staying at this lower frequency. So when I saw those certain houses lit up, it's because the light was shining on those houses. So for those people who receive the light, who are open to the light, it's almost like we will be all living together, but we will be living in two different states of awareness, two different truly states of consciousness. And the people who are living at the higher state of consciousness will be moving through life in a really, really different way.
Mhm. Is
And
that Christ consciousness? Like, I guess that that leads me into asking this question naturally, just from my background and conditioning and religion, is is the evolution of man going to be, I guess, accelerated because of a Christ return, or is it because of a Christ consciousness that we obtain?
I had a beautiful channeling from Yeshua at one of my retreats where he came through and he said that this time is different. He said the first time that he embodied, when he came, it was a time when what was needed was a messenger. And so he came as that messenger. And he says this time it can't be one soul, it has to be many. It has to be enough, because our goal at this point is to influence the collective consciousness from the inside out. that we have to come into human form in order to impact the collective. And it can't be one, because one isn't enough. It has to be all. It has to be many. And so that's why he's working through all of us. So his presence, yes, absolutely. You could call it Christ consciousness. You could call it. So I definitely would say that Yeshua is like one of the key organizers of the ascension of this shift. I call it a shift in consciousness. But it is less important that he himself be here in physical presence. Maybe he comes, maybe he doesn't. He hasn't spoken to that to me. But what he has said is that he is not the one doing the work this time. It is us. And it is all of us. And it is the goal. And the one thing I want to add to the last comment about the lighthouses and the dark houses is very, very important to that message, was the information that people can shift. That the whole reason why light workers have come is to help those people who are willing, who maybe weren't receptive to the light when it first came. There will be 3 waves of light. But even then, even after, the light workers are here to help people to move into the light. Because we want as many people who are anybody who's wanting to, anybody who's interested, right? Anybody who is open to it. So I think a lot of people are worried that they're going to miss out, that somehow they're not going to have achieved, that they're, whatever it is they're meant to achieve. It's not like that. All you have to do is be willing. And even if we are carrying a lot of heaviness, that can be moved through, right? Everything is healable. So it's just that the one place we don't want to be is in a state of resistance, trying to hold on to what we had. Because if we're trying to hold on to what we had, if we're really limiting ourselves by our expectations, saying if it's not turning out in this exact box, exactly the way I drew it, then I don't want it. Then we're not going to be able to see the beautiful things that are coming.
And I love everything that you're saying. And I really would love to get some more time one-on-one with you. But I would really love to be able to speak to the angels too.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I'd ask for you to, let's do a little grounding together, because when I bring them through, they often move a lot of energy through. So it's a good idea to be grounded. So it'll take me just a minute to get in front. We'll do a quick grounding. I'll get into trance and then I'll bring them through. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Blessings, blessings. We are with you. We are apparent to you now. We are apparent in our form as one mind, as one awareness, as one sense of yourself, having been surrounded. We are within and around yourself. Even now, as we are speaking, we are in all ways, in all aspect of who you are now and who you have ever been. We are present within yourselves. You are wondering now as to our essence. Is it impregnable? Impregnable? Is it an aspect that can be encountered? Or are we reflective? Are we not able to be influenced by ourselves? And we say we have within ourselves emotionality that you know well. We are endowed with a consciousness that receives joy, joyful expression, as well as sorrow to some degree. We do not carry a similar vibration or emotionality, the same as with which you are bestowed. Our emotionality does not descend to the same level of earthly integration that you are experiencing now. We do, however, encounter you as you are. We encounter the many aspects of self, of sorrow, of shame, of degradation, which you have experienced. We are aware even now of how you suffer, of where you are held in the arms of your own encounter, wishing to feel better now. And we have within ourselves the ability to endow you with a graceful prospect, to give unto you healing, as is our method, to draw into the light of the divine, to loosen your grip, your hold upon what would lead you into sorrow, to draw to you faith, an opening, a moment, an encounter with what could be a better view. And this we offer to you, even now, through this blessing. We offer to you this opening, the desire for you to speak our name, to call upon us, our name as angels, to speak to us aloud, aloud, aloud. It must be said. And upon this, we will endeavor to draw into your frame, your physical substance, the light of ourselves, to engulf you. As we have drawn into presence the light of the divine, we share this with yourselves. And we offer this even now as we are speaking. You have questions for us?
You talked about desires. Where do desires come from?
From the heart space, always. We wish to amplify the question you are making, to guide yourselves with these words in the understanding that the logical mind must be held as important, but surrender to the heart space. The heart space must lead. The heart space is your center calling. It is the soul, the self. It is the seat of your awareness. It is the guidance that is calling you forward. And the mind must surrender itself to this objective, to that which the heart desires, to use the heart in its perspective as a way of knowing what you should do, to allow the self to feel into your answer, to allow the heart to be your guidance system, and to let the mind in its alteration, in its ability to think through, to problem solve, to perform the analysis, to guide you in the steps worth taking for the illustration of the heart's space desire, for the creation of what you would feel. It is this partnership, yes, that is necessary, but to understand that desire is the formation of guidance within you. It is what speaks to your higher purpose, what speaks to your higher mind, as you would call it, but we wish to serve the guidance of the heart space within you. It is this that is paramount to the evolution of your species, paramount to the shift that you are making. It is for this reason you are asking this question. Do you understand us?
Yes. How do we connect with that higher mind or the higher self or the higher power to be more powerful creators?
Through this space, as we are speaking, through the heart space, all things are available to yourself. You must learn to trust the guidance you are receiving through not thought, not through spoken word, but through feeling. The guidance through feeling. It is as though life is encountered first perceptually as a sense, a sensory organ, as though the body perceives and receives, and the heart speaks into this. And this must be taken as solemn word, as though it is the divine light on earth, the guidance that you are seeking. It comes through here, through the center, through the seat of your world, through the heart space. And to understand, to perceive what guides you, what frequency is most in alignment with that higher urge. The mind is a culmination of experiences which come together based upon all you have observed. It is an earth-bound frequency. It does not carry the divine essence. Do you understand us?
Mm-hmm.
Thus, it is only and always through the heart space that your guidance is received. It is only and always the avenue through which your higher self can be found. Do you understand us?
I think so. I know when there is sometimes actions that need to be taken to fulfill our dreams and our desires, the body has reactions to those from our past conditioning. And you said to go with our feelings, our emotions. How do we know the emotions that we're feeling are not the programmed emotions to keep us safe in our, through our evolution, we have survived this earth plane by doing certain actions to stay small or to stay safe and to be small so that we survive. How do we know when we're doing the right actions? How do we know that we're getting closer to our desires and dreams?
This we find to be a delightful question, Trey, and we wish to speak into your heart to know your own purpose, that you are feeling, hearing, receiving your own guidance in full. And we wish to answer this most delightedly, to answer, how shall you know the truth from this organ that receives in full all aspects of the human condition? And we say to use as your guidance what brings you joy. Not all things. Do not respond to the call of fear or anger or even the desire for justice, for this will lead you astray. But to perceive through the heart space what leads you into the light of the divine. This you trust. Where is joyful feeling? Where is joyful thought? Joyful remembrance? Where do you hold the heart of the divine? Where does it guide you? To follow this like a frequency to which the heart is attuned as a receptor. Do you understand us? That it receives the frequency to which you are aligned, which aligns to your highest calling, your highest purpose. Follow your joy. It is the leading endeavor. It will draw you forward toward that which is most aligned with your highest purpose. To feel into the earth, where is joy for me? Where is joyful thought? Where is joyful presence? This is like an attunement to your own blessings, which are calling to you. Do you understand us?
Why is creation so drawn out here?
We have, until this time, within this space of earthly incarnation, guarded yourselves against yourselves. For the creation of this life would endeavor to bring to you all the disharmony you experience internal. Some of this experience would not be aligned with your highest good. It would be detrimental to your own living. You may manifest something you do not wish to experience. Thus, it has been encountered through the aspect of time, and the expression of life has become linear and drawn out for the purpose of learning, for the experience of truth, for the knowledge of self, and for the ability to second guess your own estimations and to come into alignment with a greater endeavor, with a higher expression of yourself. It is through the process of experimentation, elimination, and concentration of your energies. This is what it allows. We would say that in the experience of life as it is coming, in the new frequency which is attainable by you, in this new space of awareness, which you are soon to be able to achieve, you will have the ability to interact with your reality in a differing manner, to perceive what is around you as purely energy, to perceive all things as permeable to your own mind and concentrated ability, to perceive things as they are, as mutable, as changeable, not in their essence, not at their core, not for the instantiation which they have become, but on the surface, you can alter and amend the energetic frequencies of all things, and this will become a reality. Thus, your passage through life will change immensely. Do you understand us?
I think I do. What is keeping us from perceiving our environment in that way?
You have now a vibrational density which harbors within it a cloud-like surface around all things, as though density is all you can perceive. You perceive the world like yourselves, as solid objects, as something that cannot be moved through, as something that is hardened, much like the physical substance of your own self. It is an aspect of soul, of self, of choice in this incarnation, as it has been unto this point, to become so physical, so dense, that movement becomes impossible, that there is indefinite separation between all things, that all things are separated from one another and cannot be traversed energetically. And this is altering, this is coming into focus as unity is emphasized. The consciousness becomes less separated, more transferable, more mutable. Do you understand us?
Well, how do we clear that cloud, right? Like, how do we see through that? Is it going within more? Is it through meditation? Is it through going to the heart space? Like, what clears that lens?
It is a process of attaining a higher frequency than you currently have, which you are doing. But we would encourage yourselves to perceive within yourselves where there is hardship, where there has been conflict, unearthing your greatest wounding. This is the time, this is the period in this instantiation, in this existence now, all must come into fruition. You have the ability to clear, to come into the awareness, the knowledge of, to integrate all aspects of who you are, to draw all this into the center self, into the soul's awareness. This is the time, the passage has been given. This is the time of awareness which serves this purpose. Once you have achieved a lesser density, this ability to see yourself is diminished. The life journey becomes easier. You will not experience the same degree of conflict or torment in your life's journey. And this we perceive you are joyous about. And we understand that life becoming easier is perceived as something very wanted amongst yourselves. But we would say and amend that thought that you are having, to remember, to remind yourselves why Earth as a school has been valuable, why you have chosen it as a venue, as a place to become. And we say it is within this construct of karmic experience that you confront and can understand yourselves in the greatest depth, though it has been difficult. And we would advise the selves to endeavor to remain within this framework while it is still present and pressing upon yourselves, in the constant state of self-awareness, in the process of healing, in the effort to recall and draw to the self all and every aspect that is available. All that you can heal, all that can be done must be done now. All that can be done, all that is achievable, it is a welcome opportunity. We would advise yourselves to do this now. This is the only instantiation upon this earth which you have had, which has given you access to every instantiation you have ever had. This is the only time. This is the only time. The only time this has been truth. In past incarnations, you have only had access to those lives which were relevant. Now, all healing is available to yourselves. All. Endeavor to use this time well. Endeavor now. We would advise yourselves, use this time well, for this will guide yourselves to your greatest, highest truth. In all ways, your desire to learn, to understand yourselves, this is the time now. In the times coming soon, your frequency will shift and the vibration is welcome, and it will become a new time. A new reality is opening before yourselves, and you will experience it now as something of beauty, something of truth, something of an endowment from the divine, and it will be taken in and perceived and received with great welcome. But to understand that the learning becomes something new, the challenge has revised itself, and you will no longer be on the karmic journey, and you will not have those aspects of soul and self so available to you as they are now. Do you understand us?
I do. Last question. Can I choose the reality that I want to experience here in this reality?
To some degree, yes, not in all ways. You can choose how you are experiencing this world. In the process of understanding self, it is a dialogue between you and your reality. It is a process by which you are encountering now who you are in all things. And the degree by which you allow this process to unfold, to which your awareness is guided to concentrate upon what you are encountering, to which you allow yourself to be revealed within, to which you accept this endeavor, this is the choice you are making. You are making the choice as to how you will experience this world, how you will allow yourself to be revealed to who you are now, how you will take on, to discern, to absorb, to reflect upon, and in this process to heal all that you are. This is the choice you are making now. And through this process, your reality does shift as you change, as you allow all that you are to be understood, to be perceived, to be welcomed back into the heart of your own knowledge. Your world reflects a higher vibration and conforms to who you become. And your experience of this world becomes gentler. Do you understand us?
I do. I want to say thank you for taking the time to meeting us here where we are at. I know that can be difficult for you at times, so I just wanted to say thank you, and I show much gratitude for that.
We are grateful for the opportunity to have been speaking with you. We thank you. We bless you. We give our blessings. We say goodbye.
How do you feel?
Hey, good. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello. Welcome back.
And
Yeah.
this has been fantastic. I feel like we've been in a time warp, and it just seemed to go by so quick. How can people reach you, and how can people find out more about your work?
Thanks for asking. I have my own YouTube channel, which is under my name, which is Ann Tucker, Anne Tucker, and I'm live there. I share a video every Friday, a message from the angels. And then my website is also my name, anntucker.com. So, and yeah, I offer multiple different healing programs that people can take advantage of, that they can find all about there. So as a matter of fact, I have a program coming up called Soul Convergence, which starts in February, which is a way of bringing our masculine and feminine energy into balance to be ready for this great shift in consciousness that's coming.
Convergence. I love it. I love this
Yeah.
convergence that's happening here with you and I.
Yes.
And thank you so much for taking the time. You can come on the show anytime. Open invitation. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day.